So let's look at physical inventory count for NetSuite. There is inventory counting functionality available through NetSuite. However, there are some limitations to what it can do. Physical inventory count for NetSuite, which we're going to be looking at today, was built out to make it easier to count regularly in a more flexible way in a real-world scenario, whether you have warehouses or storefronts or a mix of both. So let's go ahead and look at an inventory item really quickly and we'll jump into it. We have all these locations, and if you have the count interval set up with the next inventory count date set up, inventory count can be configured to automatically each day run a job and send out a list of items that are coming up to be counted. This is entirely configurable. You can send it to just one warehouse manager or all warehouse managers, or depending on what location it is, you can send it to different sets of people. Now, it's not necessary that you do the count when these reminders come out. It's not mandatory, but this does serve as a nice reminder to say, hey, these items are needing to be counted again next week, for example. In addition to that, there are also worksheets. So let's look at the bin item worksheet. This is a very simple screen. It's essentially a created safe search, but we find that it's very useful. A company can run it, export it as a CSV or Excel spreadsheet, print it out, and then start counting from here. There are also several filters depending on what you want to count. Are you just going to count one location? Are you going to count multiple locations in parallel? What bins are you going to count, etc. So physical inventory count for NetSuite offers two different ways of counting inventory. One is using worksheets like I'm showing you right now, where you can export this and start counting inventory. And then the other way that you can count inventory with this solution is using a barcode scanner to do this. So this screen has been custom built to work on all sorts of device types, such as mobile devices with a 3 to 5 inch screen. You don't need an expensive barcode scanner. You can do this with any mobile device that has a camera. So you could use a tablet to count inventory in your warehouses, or you could even use a cell phone to count inventory. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to select locations, it allows you to select bins that you're going to count, and then click the scan button. And this gives it access to the camera, pointed at the item, and it automatically fills in the details, fill in the quantity, and once you click on submit, it creates a staging record in real time in NetSuite saying this item has been counted. And you can do the same thing with the worksheet as well. Once you're done counting, you can import it back into the custom record. And then once you're done with that, we can go in and we can view all of the items that have been counted. So this is the inventory count screen. You can look at specific warehouses, or if you leave it blank, it shows you records from every single warehouse. You can filter by items, by bins, departments, and so on. Now I'm looking at this right here, and I can select it, and it automatically counts the total variance and shows me the total up here dynamically. Now I'm looking at something, and let's say I'm finding that it isn't quite right. You don't actually have to go in and reject the entire count and restart. Instead, what you can do is you can click on View, go to the custom record, review this, talk to your warehouse, and then you can adjust the count if that is what you need to do. Then you simply save it, refresh it, and you're back where you were before. You haven't suffered a setback at all. There are multiple ways to post an inventory adjustment. You can choose to post one consolidated transaction for everything, or you can choose to have separate transactions for each line. You can also either post an inventory adjustment or an inventory worksheet. The inventory worksheet is not used very frequently for small adjustments, but it's very useful when you want to revalue your inventory from the ground up. So say I have chosen inventory adjustment, and I have chosen which lines I want to post, and I can choose an account that I want to post it to, and then I can click on process. So once this is done, it kicks off a batch job that looks at every selected line from here, and then creates either one inventory adjustment transaction or several inventory adjustment transactions as necessary. Once that's done, an email is sent to whoever kicked off this process saying, this many records were processed, here are the transactions that were created. You can view records that errored out, has errors, and you can view the transactions. So if you look at this one, for example, it says physical quantity should not be less than 0. So this obviously was an error in the quantity. If we look at it closer, it's at -1 when it's meant to say 1. So you can go in, and then like we did before, you can correct the physical quantity right here, and you can reprocess it. If you want to look back at the transactions that were already processed, you can say Show Processed Records, and then you can click on Filter, and it shows you everything that was processed earlier, along with the other filters that you've selected. So, very useful to look back and review something that has already been done. And that's it. That is physical inventory count for NetSuite.